2012 World Rally Championship was contested in 14 countries with 11 months of intense competition, and now we are going to relive it one last time. This year's campaign kicked off in Monte Carlo in mid-January. The Monte returned to the series after a 3-year absence, and for the occasion the sport's most famous round went all out with a 1,780-kilometre long event with 433 competitive kilometres over 5 days. And like in its heyday, it ran through the Ardèche region, over the Col du Turini, and concluded in the Principality. And the Rally 2 regulation was thrown out of the window. If you dropped out, you were done for the weekend. Five-time winners of the rally, Sébastien Loeb and Daniel Elena, jumped into an early lead.
Le droite, il n'est pas plus là. Hein. Non, gauche en plus, long sec. Là, sur droite, ça plus et droit sec. Sur gauche, à fond long, ouvre. Et ferme 130 points, mi-long après.
But they were relegated to second place by Jari-Matti Latvala and Mika Anttila. In making a better tyre choice, the lead crew at Ford had a 30-second advantage when they were caught out on the icy road on stage 4. Ford hopes now rested on the shoulders of Petter Solberg and Chris Patterson, who marked their return to a factory ride by finishing in a promising 3rd place. In the controls of the countrymen, Dani Sordo and Carlos Del Barrio reminded us how good they are on tarmac, finishing as runners-up. At this stage of the season, they didn't know if ProDrive would retain the support of BMW Mini despite their outstanding performance. To the surprise of no one, Loeb and Elena took the win, career win number 68 for the French pair. And they added the 3 bonus points for the best time on the power stage to move to the very top of the points table. Well, 2 weeks later there was a change of scenery for the lone snow round on the calendar, Rally Sweden, where in 2004 Loeb and Elena became the only non-Scandinavians to ever win here on the snow in the 36 times this rally has been a part of the WRC. Round 2 also saw the introduction of the qualifying stage. After 2 runs during shakedown, the teams put in a 3rd run. The quickest from that session chooses his day 1 start first. The running for the following days goes against the overall classification. This regulation only applies to events on gravel and on snow. In the asphalt and Monte Carlo rounds, the championship leader has the honour of being first on the road. History will show that Jari-Matti Latvala was the first winner of the qualifying stage. He chose to start in 17th position, but it was Dani Sordo taking the early lead just after learning that the Mini would no longer be supporting ProDrive and that he would not be doing the full season as was planned.
Derecha 8 en rasante, 10 frena de izquierda, 5 poco lenta, 40.
After Sordo, it was Mads Ostberg's turn to shine. The revelation on Rally Sweden 2011 was leading the way. Things were not going so well for Loeb. He took too long to decide on a tyre and left service late, therefore being handed a 10-second penalty. He made up some of the lost time just until he made a rare mistake on special stage 7. 2 minutes lost were enough to deny the Frenchman any chance of a top result. Nevertheless, Citroën Racing still had a shot at victory thanks to new recruit Mikko Hirvonen, fourth in Monte Carlo and winner of the Finnskog Rally held a week earlier in Norway. Finn was in the lead. In the end, Hirvonen was able to hold off former teammate Latvala, who after his Monte Carlo disappointment had to get back on form here in Sweden. Despite a puncture on the final day, Jari-Matti Latvala won a WRC event for the second time. It was also victory number 80 for the American car maker Ford. Round 3 was also the first non-European event of 2012. No parkas and bonnets here in Mexico, but the ceremonial stance at Guanajuato is the most colourful of the campaign. The Super Special kicked off the competition and it was Petter Solberg posting the best time. It was short-lived though, as Solberg got it wrong on the following stage.
Small crest on the gravel, 35 right minus 1 right.
His run-in with a curb creating a slow puncture which led to a spin and dropped Solberg to 14th position. Latvala then moved into the lead, but then it was his turn to have troubles. On SS5 he hit a rock which broke the Fiesta RS suspension. The Citroëns were now clear of the competition, with Hirvonen 6.1 seconds up from Loeb. A stout run for Mikko in his first outing on gravel with the DS3.
Huomio, lyhyt oikein loiva sisältä, heti vasen eri, jarru, lyhyt oikein nopea sisältä. Jarru 4, oikein nopea sisältä käännä, kivilinjalla 3, vasen täys. Ja nyt oikea laita täys, 7, pitkä vasen K menee ja aukee, kivi sisällä. Huomio, varo 7, lyhyt vasen jarru 2, tosi pitkä oikein, hidas tiukka. Aukee.
As we were left wondering if team orders would come into effect, Loeb for his part pushed hard to take the lead at the end of day 1, and that is exactly what he did. Fifth in Monte Carlo and Sweden, Evgeny Novikov wasn't as successful down Mexico way. He was running in Rally 2 format after going off the road, and he did it again on day 3. Began with the Ford leaving the road, which tore off the tracking system, and then his Fiesta went for a wild ride. Dust invaded the cockpit in this massive accident for the Russian driver.
You're okay? Yeah, we have to go outside as quick as possible. Right. Fire or whatever.
Let's take another look at this accident from the outside. Up to third place at nearly 2 minutes to Loeb. Latvala couldn't do much else, but he received a message over the radio to put pressure on the Citroens. The split times gave a clear advantage on the 54-kilometre long stage, just until he was surprised when he saw Novikov's car in front of him. Another 0 points result for Latvala in 3 rallies, while Loeb took his second win of the season to return to Europe with an 11-point lead from Hirvonen, with Solberg 19 points adrift. After 3 rounds, Citroën was off to a strong start, but the Fords were not out of it. In terms of pure speed, the DS3 and the Fiesta are equal, and with a little bit of luck, the blue oval entries could still turn the tide. The weekend prior to Rally Portugal, Peter Solberg won the FAF sprint by 0.02 seconds from Loeb. And on SS3, Sébastien Loeb showed that he's human. The 8-time world champion went right when he should have gone left and drove off the road. No damage for the team, but with a crushed roll cage, their weekend was done and dusted. The next day, in a constant downpour, the factory Fords were first and second overall, but that was very short-lived. On SS5, rally leader Latvala lost control of his car and got stuck in a ditch. And exactly the same thing happened on the same stage to Ott Tänak. The talented Estonian was 4th overall at the time. Suffering wasn't over just yet for Malcolm Wilson. On the following stage, Peter Solberg, who had inherited a 25-second lead over Mikko Hirvonen, was the next to go off. With the weather improving, Hirvonen was looking like an easy winner with no one behind capable of catching him. Finn was on his way to his first win at Citroën, which would also see him take the championship lead. Not discouraged by his costly mishap, Solberg returned in Rally 2 format and put the hammer down. The 4 drivers set the best time on all 8 stages to move from 13th to 4th. He was the strongest performer on the weekend and surely had some regrets. Solberg was far behind Novikov, the young Russian heading towards his first podium finish despite suffering engine problems towards the end. Mads Ostberg also had serious engine issues and thought he'd have to retire, but everyone made it in the end. In post-rally inspection on this April the 1st, though, the clutch and turbo system in Hirvonen's Citroën was deemed outside the regulations. This, not an April Fool's joke. After the first quarter of the season, Citroën clearly the dominating squad, and that would continue. On April the 11th, just a handful of days prior to the start of Rally Argentina, Jari-Matti Latvala broke his collarbone in a ski accident. He was not fit, and Malcolm Wilson called up Dani Sordo to fill in. In his first outing in a Fiesta RS, the Spaniard did the business, running in the top 3. Teammate Peter Solberg led the way with a 20-second margin after posting the first 3 scratch times before dropping out on SS4. Clearly, when it's not your day, it's not your day. As usual, the Citroëns were up front, despite a delicate start to the rally where he spun several times. Sébastien Loeb made the needed setup changes to take the advantage from teammate Hirvonen. The last drama played out on the final stage of the rally when Sordo retired due to a broken alternator belt allowing Mads Ostberg to score another podium result in third place. After the mistakes in Portugal, Yves Maton decided very early to employ team orders to assure maximum constructor points. Mikko Hirvonen took his third runner-up result in 5 rallies, proving he was coming to terms with the DS3, which made his Portugal disqualification that much more regrettable. Like in Monte Carlo and then in Mexico, the win went to Sébastien Loeb and Daniel Elena, their 70th as a pairing. Their only negative was the 4th best time on the power stage, which was the first time in 2012 that the French duo didn't pick up any extra championship points.
Enlève le pont dans le droite aussi.
Droite, 140 plus long tard sur frein.
Daniel Elena, sublevante de Mónaco, Sébastien Loeb de Francia. La devolución de apoyo al público a través de nuestra bandera argentina. En el parabrisas del Citroën ganador.
A month after Argentina came another WRC classic, the Acropolis Rally. Latvala was back, while second in points, Solberg, 18 behind Loeb, was desperate to return to the top step of the WRC podium. 11 best times from 19 stages in Argentina galvanised the Norwegian, perhaps just a little too much at that. Latvala showed no signs of his slowing down as he led early on, while Solberg dropped some 15 seconds straight away after deciding to follow the advice of his team to run on a soft compound tyre. Latvala held on to the lead for the first 3 stages before Loeb moved ahead when the Ford man got caught out in a very muddy corner. Loeb-Latvala duel continued on day 2. Despite all his efforts, Loeb could not keep up on the slippery surface. After SS13, Loeb had a tenuous 2.2 second lead. Yet again, the situation turned in Citroën's favour. On SS14, Latvala hit an embankment, causing a puncture, which he had to stop and change. Latvala dropped over 3 minutes and was now 4th overall. With Latvala out of contention, Solberg tried to step in. He was second at 10 seconds to Loeb, and he was in maximum attack mode as he looked to make up time lost from the day before. But just after the day's first stage, Solberg's offensive was already over. For Solberg, the regrets were even more bitter than those of Loeb, who did lose 1 minute 20 on SS20 with a puncture. However, it was not nearly enough to stop him from going on and claiming his 3rd win on the Acropolis. Hirvonen's 2nd place made it another 1-2 for Citroën. The 3 bonus points from the power stage victory pushed the Frenchman's lead to 30, and it was easy to understand why he was so pleased on the podium at Loutraki. The last flyaway round of the year, Rally New Zealand, also kicked off the second half of the season after a month's break. At this moment in the season, Citroën was not in a position of having to win. they could rack up the points and take wind out of the sails of their competitors. Latvala was quickest in qualifying and chose the 13th start position, while Hirvonen opted to be first in the stage. As is often the case, the French team proved to be more adept with their choices. While Latvala did well on the first stage, Citroen's was a better setup for the entire first loop. Making matters worse for Ford was the fact that Solberg was second on the road, basing his tactics on Citroen's strategy, but not with the correct tyre choice. In order to not be immediately distanced, Latvala tried to compensate, which turned into a catastrophe, with the Finn suffering a spot of bad luck on SS7. The number 3 Fiesta remained a prisoner in the barbed wire for more than 4 minutes. With no outside competition, Hirvonen and Loeb battled amongst themselves just until Yves Maton decided enough was enough ahead of the final 3 stages. Loeb led from Hirvonen, with the gap reducing on each timed sector. This gives us a chance to take a look at some of the up-and-coming WRC talent. With the exception of Mads Ostberg, all the new lads made the trip. At the start of day 3, Evgeny Novikov, the youngest of them all, was 4th, with a little less than 20 seconds in hand from Ott Tanak, who in turn was followed by Thierry Neuville, the Belgian driver filling in for Nasser Al-Attiyah, who was preparing for the London Olympics. While Novikov managed to hold on to his position, it was a much closer battle for 5th place. Under pressure from Neuville, Tanak crashed 3 stages from the finish.
70 flat pikka, Hanukka läheb 6 pluss 100, parem flat 70, parem 5 pluss 30, lubasad flat. Finish.
That spectacular crash came as a boon for Neuville, who finally had himself a strong rally. He even posted 3 scratch times as well on a rally that he had never previously competed on. Sébastien Loeb and Daniel Elena returned to France after collecting their 5th win from 7 rounds. Their lead in the championship from Mikko Hirvonen and Jarmo Lehtinen was now 38 points. They can now enjoy a 5-week break, knowing that they were in a commanding position to go on and take their 9th consecutive world title.
New Zealand, Sébastien Loeb and Daniel Elena.
If the local drivers needed additional motivation for the running of the season's marquee round, Rally Finland 2012 was the 500th in the history of the championship. A 300-kilometre sprint awaited the field on a terrain where experience makes the difference. Yet in a surprise to veteran rally observers, Thierry Neuville in his maiden Rally Finland was running on a par with all the stars through the opening 2 passes. The Citroën Junior team driver was 5th at just 9 seconds to the leader Sébastien Loeb. This too was a surprise, as most would have thought Mikko Hirvonen would be leading, but after his crash last year, the Finn chose to play it cool on day 1 and ended the day 7.3 seconds behind after the first 30 kilometres of action.
Et gaucher en ciel, 200 mètres, ciel pour gauche 159, ferme 120 plus tard, corde derrière maison.
Nothing major for Hirvonen to overcome, and he also was promised by Yves Martin that there would be no team orders given this weekend. On a terrain where he became an internet sensation with his incredible jump in a Citroën C4, Evgeny Novikov would again have a hard time holding himself back. Co-driver Denis Giraudet would sadly pay the price. On the landing of a jump in the previous stage, the Frenchman suffered a vertebrae injury, and there was more to come, because against all the odds, the Fiesta made it to service, and the mechanics worked a miracle to get it back in running form. Major disappointment in the Ford camp when the car sported a new livery. For once, it was not the driver's fault though. Simply put, the Fiesta was just not as fast as the DS3, which was sporting new shocks, and that did wonders.
3 kirraa 4, ehkä panssari 10, oikein 3 eli nypyn.
As promised, Mikko Hirvonen was allowed to attack. He was 5 seconds down from Loeb when he scraped a tree, which resulted in a slow puncture. He was now 8.9 seconds behind Loeb, a lead too big to do anything about. Hirvonen did though manage to set a new record of 17.3 seconds on the legendary 33-kilometre long Unin-Poya stage. Impressive as that was, he still lost to Loeb by 6.1 seconds. The Frenchman set a record of his own in winning the fastest rally in history with an average speed of 122.89 kilometres per hour. That edging the previous record set by Marcus Grönholm in 2005 by a scant 0.03 of a second. The Monte Carlo is considered a winter rally, and 9 months went by before the first asphalt round of the year was held. Rally Deutschland. Citroën Racing hasn't been beaten on tarmac since 2001, and they also wanted to pay tribute to Filip Bugalski, the first driver to win in Germany, who passed away just days ahead of the start.
Derrière poteau, gauche 30 épingles.
It didn't take long for Loeb to build a lead of 20 seconds over Peter Solberg. Meanwhile, the first notable casualty was the Czech Republic's Martin Prokop. A puncture provoked a fire and total destruction of his Ford Fiesta. Thankfully, the crew escaped unhurt. The rains came on day 2, as did the notorious Hinklestones, well known for their tank-stopping qualities. They lived up to their reputation, provoking several retirements, beginning with that of Peter Solberg.
Early short 2 left minus. Six left and keep right over crest, 3 left minus. Extra long, tight early, keep burying over crest, 80, chicane, 6 right.
Fourth place Thierry Neuville received a message to put some pressure onto the Fords. Like Solberg, he too went off due to a misreading of his pace notes on the long Panzerplatte stage, which runs through a military installation. That was all great news for Hirvonen, who moved from 6th to 3rd place. as he was not able to maintain the pace needed to finish on the podium. This was also a good weekend for Jari-Matti Latvala, who finished a career-best second on asphalt. While he was impressive to watch, the Finn was still 2 minutes in the rears from Sébastien Loeb, who won for the 9th time in 10 appearances on Rally Deutschland.
50 mètres, attention. Droite 123, rasé le frein. Pour gauche 90, selon. 150 mètres. Attention, chicane, droite frein. Pour gauche droite 90.
Sébastien Loeb und Daniel Helena. Überrascht. And now, to welcome.
As was the case in 2004 and 2005, Rally GB Wales was not the final round of the season. Only 31 cars, and scandalously, just 3 British drivers entered the 80th running of what used to be known as the RAC. Everything else was classic Welsh, and the Fords would be tough to beat. Petter Solberg was the first to give it the beans, while for once it was Sébastien Loeb not totally satisfied with the handling of his DS3 in the muddy conditions.
Poste droit sur attention 40 mètres, gauche 120 points. Et poste sur attention 50 mètres, droite 100 000 cordes. Ouvre et ferme 90 points de quart. Sur gauche.
Mads Ostberg's goal for the end of the season was to show that by being more reliable and consistent, he could show his increased pace in an attempt to convince a factory team to be in for him in 2013. And the Norwegian did himself proud, completing day 1 in 4th position ahead of Mikko Hirvonen. The Fords were strong with Solberg in 2nd place in a battle with Sébastien Loeb.
6 left minus over crest, times 4 plus, and keep left over crest and lead 6 right. Half long, times a little.
Meanwhile, Jari-Matti Latvala pushed hard to add to his lead.
10 jarruvaron nyt 1005, heti oikein 5 liahtaan sillan, heti oikein 4.
Drier conditions late in the rally were much more to the liking of Mikko Hirvonen. He took the 3 points from the power stage, but had to settle for 5th place overall behind Ostberg.
130, oikein täys miinus sisältä 150. Huomio täysmiinusille pyysi tältä jarru 7, oikein nopea sisältä kirraa vähän. Jarru 4, vasen tosi hidas.
Fight for 2nd place between Loeb and Solberg was a cracking one. With 2 stages to go, Solberg was 0.3 of a second ahead of Loeb. On the penultimate stage, Loeb grabbed the advantage by 1/10 of a second. He went on to finish runner-up, 9/10 better off than Solberg.
Keep in over crest, 60, line, 6 right minus half long, pints caution, do cut 4 plus tightens.
After 7 long months, Jari-Matti Latvala was back on the top step of the podium and around he celebrated the 10th anniversary of his first WRC go when he was 17 years of age. And on that 2002 rally, young Latvala finished a remarkable 17th in a privateer Mitsubishi.
And takes quite a bit of effort to get a bit of momentum into the spraying of the Grenade d'Alsace, but there we go. That's the picture.
Ahead of Rally France Alsace, during the media day at the Paris Motor Show, Sébastien Loeb finally spoke out about his future in motor racing. Contrary to what his results may have one believe, the sport's greatest driver decided to no longer run a full campaign. In no means is he riding off into the sunset. Loeb will run a limited WRC program in 2013, beginning at the season-opening Monte Carlo, and could well be involved in a possible Citroën switch to the World Touring Car Championship in 2014. While he looks to begin a new motor racing chapter, there was still a driver and constructor title to be won. Before the start, we thought Loeb's main competition would come from Dani Sordo in the Mini. While the Spaniard is among the very best on tarmac, his Mini lacked the needed development if he was to contend for the win in Loeb's backyard. After Thierry Neuville impressed with the best time on the Strasbourg Super Special, Loeb and Elena took the lead on SS2. Loeb's job was made just a bit more difficult by the very on form Jari-Matti Latvala.
Heti vasen 2 kirraa ylipitkä. Heti maali. Oikea 2.
At the close of day one, Loeb had a somewhat small 13-second lead from Latvala, while third place Hirvonen was more than 30 seconds down from his teammate, with Petter Solberg not far behind in fourth place. Petter Solberg's 2012 campaign of frustration continued in France when he took a wild ride through the vineyards and spectator area. Thankfully, no injuries here, with the exception of a few bruised grapes.
The road is up there.
Latvala knew that the 43-kilometre Pays d'Ormont stage would be the decider. Loeb's 2010 victory was won here, and Latvala soon realised there was nothing he could do to match the Frenchman, who took 18 seconds on this one. The battle for fourth was a three-driver affair between Dani Sordo, Mads Ostberger and Thierry Neuville. Sordo drove a clean stage, but the same couldn't be said of Ostberger, who pushed his Fiesta as hard as he possibly could. When the clock stopped, it was Thierry Neuville and Nicolas Gilsoul who had the upper hand in the battle for fourth.
220, entrée à droite, très dur bref, entrée droite, vraiment très dur.
150 mètres devant le de rôle, gauche 30 couple. Encore de max, 250 mètres. À l'arbre, gauche à corps.
Despite a minor scare and the unique context of the situation, Sébastien Loeb and Daniel Elena didn't let their emotions get the most of them as they took their 75th win, their 9th world title, and gave Citroën its 8th constructor crown. During the 2 weeks between Rally France Alsace and Rally Italy Sardinia, news concerning 2013 was being made, and it wasn't all positive. Mini announced its withdrawal from the WRC on October the 12th. Ford followed in kind 3 days later. The next news was of Jari-Matti Latvala being brought in at Volkswagen to join Sébastien Ogier. When they returned to action, something rare happened. The now 9-time world champion went off the road while being pressured by teammate Mikko Hirvonen. SS3 would also be fatal for Thierry Neuville. He glanced away from his pace notes and went off. A shame for the Belgian driver, who seemed to be on top form at the time. On the following stage, it was Latvala's turn to get it wrong twice, the second time being definitive.
Keep left over 120.
And on SS7, Petter Solberg's incredible bad luck this season continued.
Extra long, tightens 2 minus, half long tightens. 30. Big cut, 6 right minus, keep in, and late 6 left tightens 2 minus over crest, tightens 1 plus. Keep in, and 2 right tightens, tightens 1 plus.
All of this worked in favour of Marco Martin's protégé Tanak, who went on to finish third. Evgeny Novikov would be rewarded for his efforts to finish the season on a very small budget with a career-best second place. Meanwhile, Mikko Hirvonen scored his first win as a member of the Citroën factory team, the 15th of his WRC career, and one that cemented his role as team leader in 2013. 2012 season finale, Rally Catalunya, was the only mixed surface round on the calendar. During day one, which was run on gravel, the rain turned all the tenors' plans upside down and allowed Mads Ostberger to stand out. In a battle with Dani Sordo for second seat at Citroën in 2013, the promising Norwegian made the most of the situation. Both Thierry Neuville and Petter Solberg's run of hardship continued. A hole created from the steady downpour was the cause for both to go home ahead of schedule.
C'est quoi ça? J'en sais rien. C'est le virage à Petter, ça?
It was a touch of irony for Solberg. This was the same corner that caught him out in 2011. Not the way the 2003 world champion was hoping to end the year. Rally Catalunya was a sort of coming out party for Holland's Hans Weiss. His first run in a WRC car was impressive, but he too had his share of close calls, as we can see here. Another to have their share of close calls included Evgeny Novikov, as well as Chris Atkinson, Dani Sordo and Andreas Mikkelsen. Day 2 on tarmac was practically the start of another rally. With just a 27-second lead from Loeb, Osberger had reason to doubt he'd be able to hold off Loeb. He tried to, but then reality struck on SS8. That mistake allowed Loeb to move into the lead ahead of Jari-Matti Latvala. With a now ill-handling car, Osberg had to settle for an eventual 4th position behind Mikko Hirvonen.
Tasoissa tänäkin kanssa. Vasen tosi hidas, menee kirraa.
While the others just wanted to get to the end of the season, Dani Sordo blasted through the stage in his home rally, a sort of tryout for his former employer Citroën, and it was just a few days later that the French firm signed the Spaniard to team up with Mikko Hirvonen in 2013. Sébastien Loeb and Daniel Elena went out in style, scoring their 8th straight Iberian triumph and bringing their full-time partnership to an end at the same rally where it began 13 years earlier, where Citroën also scored their very first win in the WRC. It doesn't come more full circle than that.